Hi, Jim Carrey. Yes.
What?
I've covered a lot of fashion weeks. This is the first time I've run into Jim Carrey.
Well, he's very kind and he's very generous, and it speaks to his beautiful heart, and the man is a creative genius.
They come up to me in the street and, their parent says, "You know who that is? That's the Grinch." And I go,
Did you know that one of the quietest men in Hollywood just sent a loud warning? Keanu Reeves doesn't talk much, but this time, things feel different. When Jim Carrey started speaking out and calling out the system, most people stayed silent. Some even stepped back. But not Keanu. Instead, he stood right beside him. And now fans believe there's a deeper meaning behind it all. A message, maybe even a warning to Hollywood itself. What really happened behind the scenes? And why would someone like Keanu choose to speak out now? Join us as we uncover the truth. But to truly understand everything, let's first take a closer look at what Jim Carrey actually said. What Jim Carrey revealed. Jim Carrey has never been afraid to speak his mind. Even at the height of his success, when most people would do anything to stay in Hollywood's good books, he chose a different path. Over the years, he has described the industry as spineless, hollow, and nothing more than a never-ending rat race. While others chased fame, money, and approval, he often stood apart, questioning the very system that made him famous. And one moment really made that clear. During the fallout from the 2022 Oscars incident involving Will Smith and Chris Rock, Jim Carrey didn't hold back. While many in Hollywood stayed quiet or tried to smooth things over, Carrey spoke openly.
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse.
He said he was sickened by what he saw, not just the incident itself, but the reaction that followed. A room full of powerful people stood up and applauded shortly after something shocking had just happened on live television. To Carrey, that moment wasn't just about one person's actions. It was a reflection of something deeper, something broken. This was one of the biggest nights in entertainment. Cameras rolling, millions watching around the world. And in that room, filled with some of the most influential names in the industry, very few were willing to stand against what was clearly wrong. Instead, many chose to go along with it. That silence, that willingness to ignore uncomfortable truths, is exactly what Carrey was calling out. But his words didn't stop there. He wasn't just reacting to one event, he was pointing at a pattern. He reminded people, indirectly, of past moments when the industry protected its own. Times when powerful figures were celebrated despite serious accusations. Names like Roman Polanski and Harvey Weinstein have long been tied to controversy, yet for years they remained deeply embedded within Hollywood's inner circle. For Carrey, that sends a clear message. Loyalty to power often matters more than doing what's right, and he's not the only one who has raised concerns.
So let me ask you this. What is happening in Hollywood that a guy that tough will be on the street waving a gun, screaming, "They are trying to kill me"?
Comedian Dave Chappelle has described Hollywood as a place that can slowly wear people down, calling it sick and corrosive. Former child actor Corey Feldman has spent years trying to shine a light on the darker side of the industry he grew up in. Even Mel Gibson once compared modern Hollywood to something out of the Twilight Zone, strange, unsettling, and hard to fully understand. Then there are the stories that rarely make headlines. Stories of private events where phones are taken at the door, where silence is expected and agreements are signed before anyone even steps inside. Actress Elijah Wood has spoken about environments filled with people who take advantage of others, especially those who are new and vulnerable. Singer Rihanna has also had people from her circle describe similar behind-the-scenes experiences, worlds hidden from the public eye. And perhaps one of the strongest voices has been Rose McGowan, who once described Hollywood as a kind of cult, not in a dramatic, exaggerated way, but as a structured system with unwritten rules, rules that everyone somehow understands without being told, rules that are enforced quietly by agents, managers, and insiders. Follow them, and you move forward. Question them, and doors start to close. When you take a step back and look at everything together, it shows a very different side of Hollywood than what people usually see on screen. And this isn't the first time Jim Carrey has spoken out. From the very beginning, he has been calling out the industry and speaking his mind to anyone willing to listen. The first ever moment.
I get emotional thinking about it. Like they just said we were wrong. And I've never seen a critic say that. Both of them said we were wrong.
Jim Carrey's criticism of Hollywood didn't just start recently. It goes all the way back to the very beginning of his rise to fame. Long before he became one of the biggest stars in the world, Carrey already had a very different mindset. While most actors dream of fitting into Hollywood, he was thinking about shaking it up, or even tearing parts of it down. In fact, in a 2018 interview, Jim Carrey revealed something surprising. He said that when he landed his breakout role in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, his goal wasn't to become the next big leading man. It was the opposite. He said he planned to destroy Hollywood, not in a literal sense, but creatively. At the time, Hollywood had a very clear idea of what a leading man should be: calm, tough, and always in control. The kind of character you'd often see in movies led by actors like Clint Eastwood, the quiet, serious type who always had the answers. But Carrey didn't fit that mold, and he didn't want to. Instead, he came in with something completely different. Loud, unpredictable, and over-the-top energy. Faces that twisted in impossible ways. Movements that felt almost cartoon-like. Characters that didn't follow the rules because he was trying to break those rules in the first place. He wasn't trying to be the cool guy. He was trying to make fun of the idea of the cool guy. To Carrey, that was the real rebellion. He described it like taking a sledgehammer to the traditional image of a leading man. Instead of playing the hero who always knows what to do, he created characters who were chaotic, awkward, and completely unfiltered. And somehow, that chaos felt more real than the polished performances people were used to. There was honesty in it.
I just believe that, the audience cares more about a guy who's trying to be a good man, although he's got all the demons.
Carrey once talked about Hollywood as a city of masks, a place where people hide who they really are behind perfect images and carefully controlled personalities. His style of comedy was his way of ripping those masks off. By being exaggerated, silly, and unapologetically weird, he was exposing just how fake everything else could feel, and audiences loved it. What's ironic is that the very thing he used to challenge Hollywood is what made him a massive star within it. Movies like Ace Ventura didn't just succeed, they blew up. Suddenly, Jim Carrey wasn't an outsider anymore. He was everywhere. One of the most recognizable faces on the planet. The system he wanted to disrupt ended up pulling him right into its center. That system created a strange contradiction. On one hand, Carrey had achieved everything actors dream of: fame, success, and influence. On the other hand, he was now part of the very machine he once wanted to challenge. The same spotlight that gave him a voice also tried to shape him, define him, and fit him into something more familiar. One thing about Jim Carrey is that he never fully went along with everything. Over time, you could see a change in him. His interviews became deeper, and his tone more thoughtful. It almost felt like he was part of it just to reveal how the system really works, and in many ways, he actually did. Seeing the truth. While Jim Carrey was on a mission to expose Hollywood, his message started to go even deeper. It wasn't just about the industry anymore. It became something more personal, about fame itself. After everything he had achieved, all the success, all the recognition, all the money, he came to a realization that most people don't expect. Jim Carrey once said something that stopped a lot of people in their tracks.
I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer.
Think about that for a second. This is not coming from someone who failed. This is coming from someone who won. Someone who reached the very top of the mountain. And instead of celebrating it as the ultimate goal, he's warning people about what's waiting there, the emptiness. Over time, Carrey began to openly talk about how fame can feel like an illusion. From the outside, it looks perfect. The glamour, the attention, the endless opportunities. But on the inside, it can slowly distort who you are. He described Hollywood as a place built on illusion, where image becomes everything. Where people start to confuse who they really are with the version of themselves the world expects to see. That's where things get dangerous. Because fame, in Carrey's words, can act like a substance. At first, it felt incredible. The attention, the validation, the sense that you've made it. But just like any substance, the more you rely on it, the more it begins to control you. And if it ever fades, even a little, it can leave people feeling lost, empty, or even broken. He's seen it happen. He's lived close enough to it to understand how quickly things can change. At one point, Carrey said something even more revealing.
I don't exist. So they're all characters that I've played, including Jim Carrey, including Joel Barish, including any of those things. They're all characters. Jim Carrey was a less intentional character because I thought I was just building something that people would like, but it was a character. I played the guy that was free from concern so that people who watched me would be free from concern.
He explained that Jim Carrey itself started to feel like a character, something the world created and expected him to keep playing, a version of himself that didn't fully match who he was inside anymore. Imagine that. Becoming so famous that your own name starts to feel like a role you have to perform. That's the side of fame people don't usually talk about. And while Carrey has talked about this, he has also stressed that Hollywood, the very system that creates fame, isn't helping. It rewards image, performance, and the appearance of success. On top of that, the whole system is broken. Chasing shadows. When it comes to Hollywood, Jim Carrey has never ignored anything. He called out the meaningless culture and criticized the industry's obsession with celebrities. He even said, celebrating icons is the lowest aiming possibility. One striking example came in 2017 at New York Fashion Week, where Carrey attended the Harper's Bazaar Icons Party. On the surface, it was a glitzy event celebrating celebrity culture, but Carrey turned it into a stage for reflection. In an interview with E! News' Kat Sadler, he called the entire affair completely meaningless. It wasn't cynicism for the sake of being contrarian. Carrey's comments reflected a profound shift in how he viewed life, identity, and society. He described existence as a kind of energetic interplay, where the individual identity of most of the people we watch on screen is an illusion. In 2018, he explained that there was no fixed him, only energies. For Carrey, the self isn't something solid, but a flowing awareness, observing and taking part in the universe. He even described himself as the universe pretending to be an individual, breaking down the usual sense of separation between ourselves and the world. This perspective on identity also informs his approach to suffering. Carrey doesn't shy away from the pain in life. He sees it as a teacher. In a 2017 speech at Homeboy Industries, he discussed choosing between the gate of resentment and the gate of forgiveness, drawing inspiration from Christ's example of radical forgiveness.
I really want to speak to the fact that I've had some challenges in the last couple of years myself, and ultimately, I believe that suffering leads to salvation.
To him, understanding suffering opens the door to compassion, which ultimately leads to freedom. Life's difficulties, when approached with awareness and empathy, become a path to salvation rather than a source of bitterness. Central to Carrey's philosophy is the idea that divine energy is omnipresent. He often speaks of God as existing in every cell of the body, in every action we take. Doing good, in this view, becomes a form of prayer, a way to connect with something greater than ourselves. Even his creative work, painting, acting, and comedy, he interprets as a way to channel that divine energy. His short film, I Needed Color, captures this vividly, showing his belief that art can transmit electric spiritual energy. It's also why fame and wealth, as dazzling as they were, ultimately left him unfulfilled. Despite achieving everything most people dream of, he realized that external success doesn't guarantee inner peace. Comedy, for him, became a tool to bring joy and relieve suffering, not to accumulate admiration or status. His desire to entertain comes from a deeply personal place, rooted in wanting to ease the pain of others, especially his mother. Carrey's spiritual journey blends Eastern philosophies like non-dualism with his own personal interpretation of Christ consciousness. Across interviews, speeches, and creative projects, from talks with Eckhart Tolle to Homeboy Industries events, he consistently emphasizes letting go of ego, embracing compassion, and recognizing the divine energy in everything. And maybe it's because of that compassion that he has consistently warned parents not to let their children into Hollywood, while also speaking out against the corrupt system. He even stays mostly out of the spotlight, leaving it all behind.
I'm telling you, kids, don't come to Hollywood. I'm serious.
Recently, Jim Carrey has mostly stayed away from the traditional Hollywood spotlight, saying it's not a place that's very comfortable for very long. For someone who could carry an entire movie with just his energy, transforming every scene with his expressions and physical comedy, this speaks volumes about Hollywood. For years, he was everywhere: red carpets, award shows, magazine covers, interviews, and then he disappeared. Suddenly, Jim Carrey wasn't at the Oscars. He wasn't headlining blockbusters. He wasn't even showing up for the big Hollywood events where his presence would have made headlines. It was as if someone had flipped a switch, and one of the most recognizable faces on the planet simply faded into the background. Fans were confused. The media speculated. Theories flew online, some outlandish, like claims of body doubles, clean-shaven transformations, or conspiracies involving lookalikes like Alexis Stone. Of course, these claims were quickly debunked, but the very fact that people even considered them shows just how much of an absence he created. This disappearance wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Carrey was choosing a different path, a path away from the expectations, the machinery, and the performative culture of Hollywood that he had once openly criticized.
I feel like, and this is something you might never hear another celebrity say as long as time exists, I have enough. I've done enough. I am enough.
Over the years, Carrey had become known not just for his comedy, but for his bold observations about fame, identity, and the hollowness of celebrity culture. At award shows, interviews, and public appearances, he didn't shy away from questioning the system. He exposed it. Stepping back from the spotlight allowed Carrey to explore the parts of life and creativity that Hollywood often ignores. Painting, sculpting, and other artistic pursuits became his new stage, one where he could express himself freely, without interference from studios or executives. Here, he could be entirely honest, entirely himself, and entirely in control. His work became more personal, more reflective, and more spiritual, a stark contrast to the formulaic and often shallow roles Hollywood offered. Even as he withdrew, he didn't disappear completely. Carrey remained selective, choosing projects on his own terms. Roles like the ones in the Sonic the Hedgehog films allowed him to participate in the industry without sacrificing his principles or personal well-being. He could work when he wanted, how he wanted, and on terms that felt authentic.
Everybody, like, talking 1,000 miles an hour up there, receiving their awards, and I was like, I'm dead.
Rare appearances, like his 2026 appearance at the César Awards in Paris to receive a special honorary award, reinforced the notion that he hadn't left the world entirely. He had just chosen how to engage with it. Stepping back also aligned with his broader philosophy. Carrey had long spoken about the emptiness of fame and material success. Having achieved the highest peaks of wealth and recognition, he realized that none of it guaranteed happiness. By withdrawing, he freed himself from the pressures of constant public scrutiny, allowing his energy to flow towards self-expression, art, and reflection, instead of image management and validation. In many ways, Carrey's semi-retirement is not a retreat, but a revolution. While Hollywood measures success in box office numbers and public appearances, Carrey measures it in freedom, authenticity, and creative fulfillment. He has redefined what it means to be a successful artist, showing that sometimes the most powerful statement is to walk away. His disappearance from the spotlight is both a personal choice and a subtle critique of the system that once embraced him. He reminds us that fame is not the ultimate goal, that stepping back can be an act of courage, and that real power comes from living on your own terms. Jim Carrey is still very much alive in the cultural conversation, not because he's everywhere, but because he has chosen where and how he appears, making every rare appearance, every artistic endeavor, and every word count even more. And perhaps that is the most Hollywood-defying act of all, succeeding not by bending to the system, but by creating your own. This raises a bigger question. If Jim Carrey really stepped away, why now? To understand that, you have to look at how he changed toward the end of his mainstream career. He wasn't just acting anymore. He was questioning everything: fame, identity, reality itself. He even spoke openly about how Jim Carrey is just a character, not his true self.
The time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies.
Before he stepped away, Jim wasn't acting like the typical Hollywood star. He started saying things that made people uncomfortable. On shows like Jimmy Kimmel Live, he joked about hidden symbols, power structures, and how people are being controlled without even realizing it. Well, it turned out he wasn't really joking. The audience laughed, the host laughed, even Jimmy Kimmel laughed. But the thing is, Jim Carrey wasn't really joking. If you go back and really listen to him over the years, a clear pattern emerges. On red carpets, in interviews, and during award shows, he constantly questioned identity and fame. Hollywood, of course, doesn't reward that kind of honesty. Those who speak out often see careers stall, opportunities vanish, and invitations disappear. Carrey's choice to step back disrupts that cycle. In a culture obsessed with attention, the one who walks away is the one who forces everyone else to pause and reflect. Sometimes leaving the stage is louder than anything said on it. At the height of his career, Jim Carrey wasn't just a movie star, he was the movie star. From 1994 to 2000, he dominated Hollywood with a unique blend of wild physical comedy, impeccable timing, and undeniable talent that set him apart from every other actor of his generation. Studios didn't just cast him, they built entire marketing campaigns around him. His energy, expressions, and humor became the main attraction, turning every film he starred in into a must-see event. 1994 was a defining year. Carrey released Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber, 3 blockbuster hits that transformed him from a sketch comedian on In Living Color into a global superstar. He became the first actor to have 3 films reach #1 at the box office in a single year, proving that his comedic genius was irresistible to audiences worldwide. His success also rewrote Hollywood's financial rules. He became the first comedic actor to command an upfront $20 million salary for The Cable Guy, a benchmark that showed just how much power he wielded. Yet Carrey wasn't content with only making people laugh. He pivoted toward dramatic roles, earning Golden Globes for The Truman Show and Man on the Moon, demonstrating he could carry both comedy and depth with equal mastery. Iconic roles like Liar, Liar, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas further cemented his legacy, showcasing his willingness to push the boundaries of physical comedy while connecting with audiences on a deeply human level. During this peak era, Jim Carrey wasn't just a star, he became a cultural force, redefining what it meant to be a comedic actor in Hollywood. Since Jim Carrey left the limelight, fans believe Keanu Reeves is quietly backing him. But how true is that? Why would one of the quietest figures in Hollywood say something about this? The quiet legend of Hollywood.
Yeah, it's real. Yeah. For me, it's like an undiscovered science. I think that's how Western society.
In a world where people tend to quietly avoid anyone who speaks out or causes trouble, Keanu Reeves acts in a completely different way. Instead of backing away, he moves closer. When Jim Carrey was boldly speaking against Hollywood, making fun of powerful symbols on live TV, warning young people to be careful, and even calling out the industry for being weak, most people stayed quiet, but Keanu didn't.
He's very kind and he's very generous, and it speaks to his beautiful heart, and the man is a creative genius.
Instead of avoiding the spotlight, Keanu stood right next to Jim Carrey on camera and called him a genius. Not once, but twice, he called him a double genius. In Hollywood, moments like that don't just happen, especially when the person you're praising has just challenged the whole system publicly. This is where Keanu stands out. His reputation in Hollywood is nearly unmatched. He's a man who took pay cuts so his crew could earn more. A man who gave millions of his own money to stunt teams. A man who spent decades building a spotless reputation, one so clean that no scandal could touch him. That's why he's known as the nicest man in Hollywood. Keanu has never chased fame for attention. For him, it's always been about the craft. Even while working inside Hollywood, he somehow avoids the traps that catch so many others. But that independence came with a price. In a 2019 interview with GQ, Keanu revealed he had been quietly blacklisted by Fox Studios. Why? Simply because he said no. Maybe that's part of the reason he is standing up for Jim Carrey now. 1994 was also a legendary year for movies for him, with films like Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, The Lion King, and Forrest Gump. Right in the middle of it all was Speed, the film that made Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock overnight stars. The movie was a massive hit, earning over $350 million on a $38 million budget. Naturally, the studio wanted a sequel. Sandra Bullock was ready. Everything was set. But Keanu, he walked away. He didn't believe in the script, and that one decision changed everything for Keanu Reeves. When he chose not to return for Speed 2, it wasn't just a career move, it was a statement. But in Hollywood, choices like that don't come without consequences. Keanu later revealed that this decision led to what he called a kind of movie jail, a long period where opportunities slowed down and major roles seemed to disappear. For nearly 14 years, he wasn't getting the same level of attention, even though his talent never changed. And when Speed 2 finally came out without him, with Jason Patric stepping in, fans could feel the difference immediately. Something was missing. That unique Keanu energy just couldn't be replaced. But here's where things take a deeper turn. Over time, whispers began to spread, stories suggesting that Keanu, behind the scenes, had drawn a line, that he had, in his own way, sent a message to certain people. Don't mess with Jim Carrey. Now, whether those claims are fully true or not, the idea behind them speaks volumes, because what people see is this: one of the most respected and private figures in Hollywood standing, even silently, in support of someone who has openly challenged the system. And that contrast stands out. Keanu has always moved differently. He stayed away from the usual Hollywood circles. He avoided the spotlight when it wasn't necessary. He didn't chase power, alliances, or influence. While others built connections behind closed doors, he focused on his work and kept his distance. Fans noticed it too. There were times when Keanu seemed to fade into the background, even while actors at his level were landing major franchises and constant attention. Some began to wonder, was it really by choice, or was there pressure behind the scenes? Whatever the truth is, one thing stayed consistent. Keanu never changed. He didn't play the game, and he never forced himself to fit into a system he didn't fully believe in. And now, when you see him connected, even quietly, to someone like Jim Carrey, it starts to make more sense. Because sometimes, the strongest statement in Hollywood isn't what you say, it's who you stand beside. So what do you think? Is Jim Carrey just speaking his truth? Or is there something deeper going on that people are only now starting to notice? And where does Keanu Reeves really stand in all of this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, like and subscribe to this channel.